Welcome to Drive the Daf. Clear, structured explanation of the daily daf in 20 minutes. You can even follow in the car.
Shabbos Daf Peivav. We'll begin a few lines into the daf where there's a Mishnah which introduces 4 new discussions. The Gemara will stick to one of them, and that is a discussion of how many days it takes for a man's zera to spoil inside the body of a woman so that if it drips out, it's no longer matameh. There will be a discussion as to who the author of the Mishnah is. Then we'll have 3 opinions in the Brisa as to how long it really takes. All of those are derived from the discussion of Klal Yisrael's order to stay away from their wives at Har Sinai. The Gemara will discuss how each opinion understands that event. Then the Gemara will have questions about 3 other places zera might be found and as to whether it's matameh there or not. And finally we'll get into the discussion of when exactly Shavuos Maimin Har Sinai occurred. We begin with the Mishnah, which lists the sources for 4 seemingly totally disparate halachos. The first one concerns the halacha that a woman who is dripping zera, seed from marital relations, that makes her tameh, but only as long as the zera is still able to produce a child. Once it has spoiled, it is no longer matameh her even if it continues to drip. And the Gemara, the Mishnah says that length of time is 3 days, including the day that it began. So what's the source for that? The source is from the fact that the men and the women separated from each other for 3 days before Kabbalas Torah on Har Sinai. It's mistakenly thought that was because the men didn't want to be contaminated by the women. It's actually the other way around. We didn't want the men to contaminate the women with their zera. And those 3 days were including the day of the first separation. And if we needed 3 days, including the day of the intercourse, the day of the relations, to make the zera non-viable and therefore not matameh anymore, that way the women could for sure be tahor on the day of Kabbalas Torah. Okay, second thing we're looking for the source for is how do you know that 3 days after a bris milah it's still considered a sakana and therefore it's permitted to be mechal Shabbos to wash the baby with hot water? That's from the fact that when Shimon and Levi attacked the city of Shechem, it was on the 3rd day of the milah and they were very weak and easily conquered. Okay, third, how do we know that they tied a red thread around the head of the goat that was sent to Azazel on Yom Kippur? And that's because it says, if your sins will be like red, they'll be whitened like snow. It refers to that thread which whitened when the kapara, the annulment of the sins, happened. And the last thing in the Mishnah is how do you know that absorbing liquids through the skin is considered to be drinking? That's relevant to the halacha of Yom Kippur, that you aren't allowed to rub liquids or oil on one's skin because it's just the same as drinking it. So the Gemara says because we have a pasuk that lists the 2 activities together, drinking and anointing with oil, and it says v'tovei kamayim b'kirbo ukishemen batzmos. If it entered his body like water, that would be through the mouth, and like oil into the bones, that would be through the skin. The Gemara for the rest of the daf will be discussing the first halacha about when a woman becomes a tameh through emission of zera. And the Gemara will first try to figure out who the author of the Brisa is, of the Mishnah is. Then we'll have a Brisa that has 3 opinions about the subject of how long the zera remains able to make the woman a tameh. The Gemara will try to figure out the source for each of these 3 opinions. The Gemara will then wonder what happens if the zera is in other places. The Gemara will have a few other places it might be other than dripping from a woman, and the Gemara will ask what is the halacha of the zera in each of those cases. And then, because this entire topic really centers around the preparation of the Jews to receive the Torah in Har Sinai, the Gemara will ask what day was Maimin Har Sinai, what day did it actually occur. So first of all, the Gemara says who is the author of this brisa, and we have an apparent contradiction right away, because the first halacha, that the first 3 days the zera makes the woman a tameh, that must be not like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who says that she's only tameh for 2 days. The 3rd day she's already tahor. On the other hand, the next halacha in the Mishnah, that a child who had a bris can be washed even if it involves Chol Shabbos for 3 days, that is Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah's opinion. So we have a contradiction. So the Gemara says this is either one of two ways of handling it, and everybody will choose which way they prefer. Either you say that there's a mistake in the wording of the Mishnah, you have to change it, that it doesn't say that on the third day she's tamei, but it says on the third day she's already tahar. So the Reisha could also be with Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and it's all Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Or if you prefer not to change the wording of the Mishnah because you don't like saying that it's a mistake, then you just have to accept the fact that the Mishnah has two different opinions. And the first halacha is that of the Rabbanon, and then comes the halacha of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and they disagree with each the other phrase. Gemara now quotes the Brisa, which has three opinions as to how you calculate these 3 days. So the first opinion is of Elazar ben Azariah, who says that the 3 days are including the day of the relations and the day that she wants to become tahar, meaning you only need one full day, and you can have a piece of the day before and a piece of the day after, and you are okay. As a matter of fact, right away in the beginning of the third day, she's tahar. How does that work? So, for example, if she had relations on Thursday, just before the end of the day, the entire Friday is complete, then right away in the beginning of Shabbos, she's tahar, even if she continues to drip. That's Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah's opinion. Then we have the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael. He says you need 2 full days. She doesn't become tahar on the third day, it's only the fourth day. So that'll work as follows. So if she had relations on Wednesday just before the end of the day, so you would need a full Thursday and a full Friday, and then she can become tahar even if she continues to drip on Shabbos, because that's already 2 full days plus a little bit of Wednesday. Now, Rabbi Akiva says it's not enough to have 1 day, it's not enough to have 2 full days, you need a full 2.5 days, meaning you need 5 units of a day or night combined. So that would be that if she had relations on Wednesday during the day, so then you have Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, that's a total of 5. And Shabbos morning after sunrise is already 2.5 full days. Then anything that drips will not be tummy anymore. But he does say that you have to calculate the hours as well. That means if it was 3 hours late on Wednesday, then you would have to add 3 hours on Shabbos morning. So you would have to have 5 full units, meaning altogether 2.5 days, but you can take a few hours from one end and add a few hours at the other end. Now the other opinions say hours have nothing to do with it. It goes by the number of days. According to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, she's tahar on the third day, and you can count part of the first day. According to Rabbi Yishmael, she's tahar only on the fourth day, and you can count part of the first day. According to Rabbi Akiva, you need full 2.5 days, like we said. Now the Gemara wants to know what the source of these 3 opinions are. Now, as far as the actual events at the time that the Torah was received, we have a machlokas between the Rabbanon and Rabbi Yosi as to what the schedule was. According to the Rabbanon, they had to separate, the order to separate from their wives was given on Thursday. Now that fits perfectly with the opinion of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, because they had only the full day Friday. That was the only full day that they were separate, and they were able to receive the Torah Shabbos morning, which everybody agrees is the time that it was received. Now, according to Rabbi Yosi, the order to separate was given on Wednesday. That means they had the full day Thursday and the full day Friday, and then they received the Torah on Shabbos. That fits perfectly with Rabbi Yishmael, who says that they needed 2 full days. According to Rabbi Akiva, it doesn't fit with either of them. Where does he get 2.5 days? That doesn't fit in anywhere. So the Gemara offers 2 answers. The Gemara first says the opinion of Rav Ada bar Ava fits here, because he says that everything that Moshe Rabbeinu did, he did it early in the morning. Like you see, when he went up on Har Sinai, it says Vayashke Moshe baboiker vayal, and he woke up early in the morning and he went, and then when he came down from Har Sinai, it says Lecheid va'alisa, and again it has the word va'alisa, so it links it to the previous, and says that also happened early in the morning. So when he went and he told them to separate from the wives, he also did that early in the morning. So therefore, really, he holds like Rabbi Yossi that the order was given on Wednesday, but it was given at the crack of dawn on Wednesday, because everything he did was early in the morning, and therefore they had 2.5 days. They had the entire daylight period of Wednesday, plus the full day and night of Thursday, and the full day and night of Friday, remembering that the night of Friday is the previous evening. So they had 2.5 days, and that's where they were able to receive the Torah on Shabbos. The other approach over here, the Gemara asks, why don't we have another approach? And then the Gemara rejects it, and that's Rav Huna who says, why do you have to say that? You could just say that even though the order was given on Wednesday, nobody actually had relations on Wednesday, because during the day it's forbidden for a Jew to have relations, like Rav Huna says. So therefore, if the order was given Wednesday, nothing happened Wednesday already. So you had 5.5 days. So Gemara says, no, but we know that the halach is that one is allowed to in a pitch dark room. And it even says, Rava says, or possibly Rav Papa says that a Talmud Chacham is allowed to have relations during the day as long as he covers themselves with a blanket. And the svara there being that he would behave properly and modestly and not make a habit out of this because he's a Talmud Chacham. So that explains Rabbi Akiva's opinion. That's how you get to 5.5 days. Now the Gemara has a few questions about the schedule here. The Gemara says, first of all, how could they receive the Torah on Shabbos? If they didn't finish the days until the end of Friday, you could only go to the mikvah Friday night. They don't become tahar until after Shabbos because they are tfulei yom. You need mikvah plus a subsequent sunset. So they weren't actually tahar when they received the Torah on Shabbos. So the Gemara says, you're right, they weren't. They were tfulei yom. You're not allowed to go into the Beis HaMikdash like a tful yom, but you're allowed to receive the Torah as a tful yom. So the Gemara asks, what do you mean, they were really tful yom? The Gemara says, no, they could have been tful yom. What actually happened was that they went to the mikveh Thursday night, and therefore they became tahar when the sun set on Friday. Had they had more emissions of zera, they would have become tameh again on Friday, and it would have had to go to the mikveh again Friday night, but the truth is it didn't happen, and therefore nobody was a tful yom. So now the Gemara says, why did they have to wait till Shabbos morning? If they all finished the mikveh already by sundown on Friday, so let them receive the Torah Friday night. According to all opinions, the time's up. They're already able to receive it then. So the Gemara answers, Rabbi Yitzchak says Hashem did not want to give the Torah at night, like he says in a pasuk in Yeshaya, Loi Mirosh B'Seiser Dibarti. I don't speak in secret. Hashem wanted everybody to be aware of it. So then the Gemara says, hold on a second. He could have had Tvila on Shabbos morning, meaning we could have moved the entire thing forward 12 hours. According to Rabbi Akiva, holds that they had to have 5 complete day or night units, so they could have had Tvila be Shabbos morning. They could have had the entire Thursday and Friday and Friday night. It could have gone to Mikvah Shabbos morning. Meaning, Moshe Rabbeinu did not have to order them to stop early Wednesday to be able to have Wednesday the day included. He could have had them stop Wednesday evening, so they would have Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and then go on to the Mikvah at the crack of dawn and receive the Torah then. So why, if Hashem wanted to give the Torah during the day, could have done it that way. So Gemara says he could have, but then you would have some people running to the mikvah and some people on the way to Har Sinai, and Hashem wanted everybody to go together, already prepared, so therefore they went to the mikvah earlier. Okay, now the Gemara has another fourth opinion here. It's Rav Chia, son of Rav Abba, says the name of Rav Yechanan, that there's a shita of the Chachamim who say they actually need 3 complete days, 6 day-night periods. It's not enough to have 5.5. The Gemara now moves on to discuss 3 other places in which you may find zera. The Gemara says, first of all, what if the man emitted it onto a surface? So the Gemara says there it will not spoil, and it is tameh, and it's matame, somebody who touches it as long as it's wet. Once it becomes dry, then it's not an issue. Why will it not spoil? Because it requires the heat of the body of the woman to make it spoil within 3 days. So the Gemara says, I have a kash on that. There's a pasuk that says, "V'chol beged v'chol ara sheyeh olav shichvas zera," and that's where we learn that zera is tamei. And right afterwards it says, "V'ish asher yishkav ish oisa shichvas zera." So we learn from there that we connect the zera that's found on an object to the zera that comes out of the woman, and just like that has to be unspoiled, this also has to be unspoiled. So you see that zera which is arrived straight from the man onto the object is also spoilable, and it has to be unspoiled in order for it to be tamei. The Gemara says, no, that's not referring to where it arrived from the man. It could have arrived from the woman onto there, and therefore it could be spoiled because it could have been spoiled by the body of the woman that it was in before. Okay, next the Gemara asks, what if it's the zera of a Jew in the body of a kusi? Do kusim have enough body heat to spoil it? What's the question? Is it only Jewish women who are always concerned with mitzvahs that have heat of the body? Or do kusim, although they're not concerned with mitzvahs, they have other things that make them hot, and that's that they eat shkatzim and ramasim, crawling and creeping creatures, so maybe that makes them hot. The Gemara doesn't have an answer for that, but the Gemara has a follow-up. What if it's in the body of an animal? So a woman has a canal before the zera reaches the uterus in which it can become hot. An animal doesn't have that. It's exposed, and it's exposed to the air, and it's cooled. So therefore, maybe it doesn't become so hot there. So the Gemara leaves both these questions unresolved. The Gemara now introduces the machlokes we mentioned earlier between the Rabbanan and Rabbi Yosi as to what was the day of the month of Sivan that the Torah was given. According to the Rabbanan, it was on Vav Sivan, the 6th. According to Rabbi Yosi, it was on Zayin Sivan, it was on the 7th. So Gemara asks, the Gemara shows the sources of the two. And the Gemara explains as follows. First of all, everybody agrees that they first arrived in Midbar Sinai on Rosh Chodesh. How do you know? Because it says Bayim Hazeh Bo Midbar Sinai, and later in the discussion of Rosh Chodesh it says HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodeshim. Hazeh links the two. They arrived in Midbar Sinai on Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Now, everybody else agrees that the Torah is given on a Shabbos, because it says Zochar Seyam HaShabbos L'Katshai. That was one of the things said at Matan Torah. And the word Zachar is used elsewhere, V'yemer Moshe Am Zachar Seyam Hazeh, about Yitzias Mitzrayim as they were leaving Mitzrayim. So just as that commandment, Zachar, was given when it was happening, so this commandment, Zachar, was also given when it was happening. Remember Shabbos was said on a Shabbos, just like remember Yitzias Mitzrayim was said on the day of Yitzias Mitzrayim. So we know that Matan Torah, which includes the phrase Zachar Seyam HaShabbos L'Katshai, was therefore said on a Shabbos. What's the machlokes? Machlokes is what day Rosh Chodesh was. According to Rabbi Yosi, Rosh Chodesh was on a Sunday. According to the Chachamim, Rosh Chodesh was on a Monday. The next day, Moshe began to tell them the mitzvahs, and then a few days later, he told them to separate from their wives and start setting out the boundaries of Har Sinai. Okay, the Gemara will discuss this machlokes at length, but that'll be Daf Pei Zayin.
Drive the Daf is a project of the Grand Woodlands Shul and is presented by Rabbi Yitzchak Landa. Find us on YouTube or subscribe to daily emails by emailing drivethedaf@gmail.com.